Number 4, set apart the Sabbath day for God. Number 5, honor your father and your mother. Number 6, do not premeditatedly take another person's life. And then number 7, do not adulterate your marriage. So all of these are given to us in the first 7 commandments. Number 8, do not take what is not rightfully yours. Number 9, do not tell lies about or spread rumors about other people. And the 10th commandment, don't covet, ache for, desire, crave, hanker after, envy, long for, or wish for, or yearn for that which God has placed in the hands of another. Or don't covet. Now, God Himself established dynamically and personally this absolute standard of right and wrong. It's not open to debate. You know, it's not inconceivable to me that somebody could go up in a mountain and fast and meditate or something for many days, come back and probably have a lot of these down on a piece of paper, right? But if I were to come down from that mountain and tell you, this is what I think is right, by today's standards, we would simply say, what? That's your opinion. That's your opinion. You know, that's your truth. If it works for you, fine. Don't try to push it off on me. But folks, when God wrote the commandments into stone with His own finger, it is not open to debate. You cannot break God's commandments. All you can do is break yourself on God's commandments. God has Himself established dynamically and personally this absolute standard of right and wrong. The commitments were written by the finger of God. They are not open to reinterpretation. They are not subject to the latest CNN popularity poll, and they are not subject to change at the whim of society. To obey the commandments is always right, and to disobey the commandments is always wrong. Period. Because that's what God says. We can say the 10 Commandments set forth briefly and concisely the will of God for every human life. They also define sin. And when they have done that, they've done their job. That's all the commandments are to do, is to reveal the will of God. Now, to illustrate what I'm talking about, let's take an example from something with which we're all familiar, our highway and our freeway systems. We all have a love-hate relationship with those, don't we? Especially when you try to go somewhere during the rush hour. I had to go down to Los Angeles this week early, man, can I time it or what? I hit every freeway at maximum traffic time. And I tell you, it's like a parking lot. It's frustrating. I don't know how people that go to the Bay Area every day do it. Let's pretend for a moment that we're way back at the beginning of roads. The road is completed, but listen, there's no standard for roads. There's no laws relating to speed, how fast you can go, how slow you can go. There's no signs. There's no speed limit. There's no rules, no regulations, nothing. Now listen, how fast would I have to drive before I broke the law? How fast would I have to drive before I got a ticket? How fast would I have to drive before I am guilty? Or how slow could I putt around? What's the answer? There's no standard. There's no accountability. You could say, well, you're not driving fast enough. I say, that's your opinion. And I say, you're driving too fast. He says, that's your opinion. With no standard, there's no accountability. See? Where there's no standard, there's no accountability. And of course, those results could be catastrophic and have been many times. I could destroy myself and others. But let's put the contemporary sign up for today. Let's suppose the sign reads, "Everyone decide for yourself how fast you should go." I know your first thought would be, that would be wonderful. I would love that if they just let me drive my own pace. Wonderful for you, maybe, but what about the maniac that just went flying by you about 90 miles an hour when you were dropping your child off for school? Or what about the little old lady going 20 miles an hour? When I was a kid, there was this old lady in Eagle Rock where I was raised who never took her car out of first gear. Never took it off. She had stick shift. She never took it out of first gear. Coming down the street sounded like she was going 400 miles an hour, Mark. And then you'd look and there she is, just barely moving. But nobody can tell her she's going too slow if there's no standard. If someone says you're going too fast or you're going too slow, then the offending party is going to be, well, that's your truth. I think what I'm doing is right. That's my truth. Do you get where I'm going with this? Does that make sense? My point is, when there is no standard, nobody can say anything. There's no standard, there's no expectation. And where there is no expectation, there can be no accountability. Now, for the sake of illustration, let's change that sign. And let's say that that sign now reads maximum speed 65 miles per hour, minimum speed 50 miles per hour. Now, with that sign on the road, the entire picture completely changes, doesn't it? Now there are in place two standards. I can drive too fast and I can drive too slow. Rules bring accountability. There's now a personal responsibility to follow the law. Or to put it another way, guilt can now be defined. If you go above the speed limit, you are guilty of breaking the law, whether you meant to or not. And oh, by the way, whether or not you get caught. If you drive faster than the speed limit, you're breaking the law. A ticket may be issued if you get caught, but a ticket doesn't determine your guilt. It simply records the violation. They now have a camera in certain places. I was over in Hawaii, and boy, are they screaming about this right now. They have a camera that shows your picture, your license number, and the speed you are traveling, all in one picture. And they can send it to you. You've been busted. Now, let me ask you a question this morning. How many of you have ever gotten a ticket that you felt you did not deserve? You don't need to raise your hand. Okay. Some got brave. How many of you ever got a ticket you felt? Now, how many of you will admit that there's 100 tickets you did deserve and didn't get? See? So guilt is not determined by whether or not you get caught. The Ten Commandments are God-given, spiritual, ethical, and moral laws of God. And they are the standards, the rules by which the human life functions best. When any honest person, listen to me carefully, when any honest person looks at his or her life in the light of the Ten Commandments and comes face to face with a huge stack of tickets that he or she has amassed, that person is going to do one of four things. Now stay with me on this. You look at the tickets, you look at your own guilt, you're going to do one of four things. Number one, you're going to live in constant denial, justification, rationalization.